Holy cow, these episodes were fantastic, though.
Oh my God. Just really, top-notch stuff all around. And then that cliffhanger too, just.
Mm. All right, folks, if you're listening on the podcast feed, welcome to Dockside at the Bay. We are going live on YouTube, so once the gremlins at YouTube get everything together, we'll be able to share the link and we'll be able to go live. We do have a couple of big announcements today. We're back after a couple of weeks.
Hmm.
Took a couple of week hiatus for a couple of different factors. Right, so I'm just going ahead and sharing the. There we go. All right, so we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dockside at the Bay. I am Vinnie. This is Kim. I'm going to go ahead and put our Patreon and buy me a coffee links in the chat. So if you want to help us out, we don't have the super chat function yet, but you can go ahead and do that. I'm going to do that right now. Kim, how was your couple week vacation?
Couple of weeks was there was a lot of stuff going on. I had a wedding to be maid of honor in, and I also got a chance to go to a Samantha's Friends event, which plugging that amazing organization here, Samantha's Friends. But I had the opportunity to once again meet up with some of the cast members from the Bay, as well as Gregory Martin, and have to say it was a lovely time down in Florida. All the proceeds from all the tickets sold to this charity event this weekend goes to different organizations, which is just it's lovely. And but yeah, I had a chance to get my photo taken and hang out with some guys and some cast members from the Bay, and it was a really awesome experience. So
That's, that's so great. I'm glad to hear it. Um, and that's awesome. But it's great because the cool part is that Martin, the creator of the Bay, as well as Christos and other actors that are on the Bay, are so supportive of our podcast.
oh yeah. Yeah, no, it was really, really neat just to kind of hear how they appreciate the deep dive that we kind of take into episodes and, just they appreciate that we're just going back in and getting a chance to like, relive, rewatch, or see for the first time, view for the first time this content.
Yeah.
And it's fun fact too that, now season 8 has been released for on Tubi, which is great. So folks can, get caught up and get all get current with the show via that app, which is great.
Exactly. I'm sorry, Tubi. No, not Tubi. It was
Oh,
Amazon and Pixar.
oh, it was Amazon Prime.
Not
My mistake. Sorry. I tend to stream. Yeah, Tubi. I don't know. That's the app that I tend to stick
yeah,
with. But even though I have Amazon too, I could go either
yeah.
way.
Tubi is still on episode set or still has up to episode 7. Peacock only has up to episode season 6.
Yep.
So
hmm
uh yeah, Amazon and Popstar are
Amazon and Popstar. That's I stand corrected.
but anyways, it's all right because the show's getting great. Before we get into our two explosive episodes that we're going to be talking about today,
And they were explosive.
they really were.
Yep.
Let's get a couple of church announcements out of the way. We are an official affiliate of WWE Shop, so go over to suds-media.com/wrestling merch. That has the URL, our affiliate URL link um, in that web address. And whatever you buy from WWE Shop using that link uh, gives us a commission. It helps us out, whether it's NWO or Hulk Hogan or any WWE superstar, current legend, Hall of Famer, or NXT. That helps us out. Also, um, we do have a new affiliation with Podpage. Our website, suds-media.com, is powered through Podpage. And that has all of our, eventually, all of our podcasts will have their own page on page. We are an affiliate for them. So if you are a podcaster looking to create an awesome website, go to podpage.com/suds. And that helps us out as well. We get a little commission there. So that's going to be cool. But the other thing is programming for Suds and Squared Circle Media is going through the roof. We did expand starting last week. We started with Take Me Down to Studio City, which is based around Sean Kanan's Studio City web show, which started out very similarly to The Bay. And I will tell you, our show is going parallel to the way it was released originally on Amazon when it was re-edited for the Roku channel and all these other apps. Again, it was similar to the Bay where it was re-edited to longer episodes. So we're going based on the original Amazon release. So check that out, Studio City, and then our new web podcast, Take Me Down to Studio City, as well as Angela Answers Fan Mail. That's going to be a whenever it might be monthly show. It's not going to be every week. We can't piss off that many people that often, but it does get into some real stuff and call people out for being stupid online. So check that out. Both of those have their own uh, podcast feeds, RSS feeds. So check those out on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Starting this week as well, this coming Thursday, will be Sports Entertainment Center. John from Chair Shot Sports and I are going to be doing a weekly wrestling podcast, and that's going to be Sports Entertainment Center, and that's going to be starting this coming Thursday. Everything is released a day early on our Patreon, which is patreon.com/Suds and Squared Circle. And then the next day it'll go to YouTube as well as the podcast feeds. Also, dropping this Thursday morning is the Mr. McMahon documentary on Netflix. So John from Chair Shot Sports, myself, Matt from 10th Floor Podcasts, and a couple of other people are going to be doing a roundtable style breakdown of each of the 6 episodes of the Mr. McMahon documentary. That's going to start this Thursday as well. We're going to be doing 1 episode a week, so check that out. I am working on getting an after show podcast based on Heels started, so that's going to be coming up. So there's a lot.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, go to suds-media.com to follow all of our content. Sign up for our Patreon because you get everything 1 day early. And once we get ads, it'll be ad free as well. But and then the next day it'll be on the podcast feeds as well as YouTube. Our show, so Dockside at the Bay, is going to seize the live aspect of it. After this episode, we're going to be going to, for a couple of reasons, we're going to be going to pre-recorded for a couple of reasons. One, the Bay is not like General Hospital is, where it's 5 episodes a week and it's current every week. The Bay has been out released for a while, and we're already at the end of season 3. So going forward, if we continued at the clip of 2 episodes a week, we're going to run out of content very quickly. So here's what's going to happen. Starting next week, Dockside at the Bay is going to be pre-recorded and dropped. It's still going to be every Tuesday, but it's going to be dropped to Patreon every Tuesday. So, and it'll only be one episode of the Bay per episode of Dockside at the Bay. So that's going to be starting next week. You get it every Tuesday on Patreon, and then it'll be every Wednesday on the podcast feed and YouTube. So go on and sign up for our Patreon, patreon.com/Suds and Squared Circle.
Yeah. If you want to, keep going with the Tuesday night routine of,
Exactly.
tuning in, checking us out,
Exactly.
pony up for the Patreon.
Yes, exactly. As well as go over to buy our merch, suds-media.com/merch. So it takes you to our threadless page. You could buy the logos of Dockside at the Bay. One of them right behind me, Doc F inside. I've said it's the ECW of soap operas, and that is why an ECW inspired logo. All right. I believe that's all the announcements that we've had to make. And now we could actually get into our 2 episodes. They are the season finales of episode 3, obviously episodes 13 and 14. And oh my God.
So much happening. Just very, very, loaded episodes, which makes the fact that it was like, close to a season, that was also very action packed, a lot of storylines that they had to just kind of tie up and,
Yeah.
also explore further or dig into further. So, but what, especially the finale, just the way that they just, oof, the last like 5 minutes, I tell you,
Oh
when
my
they
God.
just like, just tackle like, piece by piece by piece, everything that's, and just set it all up. It's just like, holy cow.
Like
It's
you
a good
learn.
thing that all the episodes, at least season 4 is right there to be
Yeah.
consumed, because if, having to play a waiting game after the way that this season ended would just have been like, oh no, 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 no. We need more.
Yeah, no, you're
So
exactly right. And just the way that season 14 just tied so many things up and also kind of started the next stories almost.
absolutely.
Like the
Absolutely.
on the cliffhanger was, oh, all right, we know that this is going to be have a conclusion to it, but now it's got another layer to it.
Absolutely.
Where
I
where
mean, it really did just kind of like, it started setting up, put down like, a lot of ideas. It was just kind of creating some new threads, but also tying up some things as well. I mean, the big last scene, obviously, if you've watched ahead, you kind of know where that storyline is headed, but, the way that they leave it there,
yeah.
just in kind of this ambiguous, dark, horrible place, just, it just, even watching it, knowing the outcome of season 4, it was still just like a gut punch again.
Well, I haven't even gotten to season 4 yet. So, like I said, this is now where I haven't watched anything yet. So all this is new to me.
Yep.
I first started binging it. Uh,
Well, friend, you've got a big storm coming.
what?
You've got a
Oh,
big storm coming.
yeah. When I first started watching it and binging it, I got to maybe, the middle of season 3, and then
Hmm.
I started over again. Now I'm all this stuff is first time watching it for me. So
Yeah,
I'm
that's
amazed
quite a place to be. Yeah.
how it's gonna how it's gonna play out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all the lead up, I mean, the first episode of the set, there were also just so many standout moments, so many scenes that like even when I was like going through and like taking notes and everything, just like I'd like, react with just like OMG or like an oh my God, like just so many, because I just forgot how intense some of these scenes are, how beautifully shot some of these scenes were. I mean, just it really just 2 episodes in a row that were just really just top notch incredible and just so well acted and performed and just yeah, really really good stuff to tap into here and uncover. And
Absolutely. And it's what was great about it is that it shined the spotlight on a couple of different characters that
hmm.
like we've seen a lot of these characters throughout the season, you know,
Right.
and started to learn more about them, but these 2 episodes kind of put the spotlight on them.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
let's kind of get into,
Yeah. I mean, it starts, I mean, when the episode opens, we kind of we have Damien, we've got Avery, and we've kind of got, Daniel, obviously, she is just kind of discovered, through the app, and she's kind of sharing like, what she's discovered about her brother, and also learns little secret about Damien, something that she doesn't know about him, that he's previously been with a man, hooked up, and she's just trying to like process that while also process everything that's going on with her brother, which Daniel's arc in these 2 episodes is just
oh,
something
phenomenal.
to behold. I mean, oh my goodness, just so intense, so beautifully acted, and just but I mean, it starts out and just, he's in just that clearly distressed place still, pass out in bed, vodka bottles right next to him, just, and he gets a phone call from Matthew and he just can't even, like, doesn't even want to speak with him, just starts drinking more vodka. I mean, he is just in like a horrible headspace.
Yeah.
And, but to have that scene with him and Damien was just, I
It,
mean, I forgot how just intense that scene is, how like just it just it's like a roller coaster. It takes you on like a little emotional roller coaster with that.
and
And it's just
it's
oof.
just amazing to me because when Damien goes to see Daniel, And because obviously Avery says how she doesn't know how to get through to Daniel, like she doesn't know
Right.
how to kind of help him out with it.
Right.
Like I'm accepting of him and I love him where he is, but he's just not there. I don't know how to help him.
Hmm.
Damien takes it upon himself to go over to see Daniel and be like, listen, I've been there. I
Hmm.
know what it feels like. You know, you're a good person the way you are. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with you.
Yeah. I mean, just, we're just trying to get through and find ourselves and figure out what we like and what we don't. And, he keeps on saying that, you got to get rid of this old-fashioned belief that, like, you've committed some sort of an atrocity or a sin, and that, like, you, you're just trying to please everybody but yourself. But if you do that, you're never going to be happy. I mean, it's such a powerful speech. It's such a powerful moment. And then Daniel's face, just the way that, like, his face lights up. He says, like, you really do, you understand, you get it.
Yeah.
Leans in to kiss him and then just it's just like, oh my gosh, and then gets rejected
Yeah.
because that's clearly not what Damien was thinking when he was, and it just, in that moment, I mean, you feel just absolutely punched in the gut. You feel as in the look on Daniel's face, it's just, oh my God.
Because Daniel realized he's like, this guy's kind of talking me up, but it's not about, he doesn't want to be with me.
Hmm.
So it's like another rejection from somebody.
Yeah.
Finally, he felt
And
open and
someone he felt like he could, like, trust and open up to, similar to Matthew. And then just to have it, just get, and it wasn't even like Damien was even trying to, he wasn't going that way at all. It wasn't any, he was just trying to support and help the kid. And it's just, oh gosh. But I forgot how just devastating that scene is in that moment. And then just to even carry on with his arc further, when he goes to the church and speaks with, it's Father Leone, correct?
yeah,
I
I
was
think
blank on the priest's last name.
yeah.
But even with that, I mean, just the level of acting in that scene from Eric Nelson is just like, oh my God.
And
Just,
it's like I want to I kind of want to applaud the Bay for the way they handled that situation delicately. You know,
absolutely.
because I mean I don't know what denomination the church is there. I don't think it's Catholic, but I think
Yeah,
along the lines of maybe an Episcopalian or some Protestant style.
could be. Yeah. It's hard. It's kind of hard to delineate it. I mean, you've
Like a
got, you know,
non-denominational multi,
yeah.
you know. Um, but the way that he talks to Daniel and he's like, we were all created in God's image the way we are. We're perfect.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, when he's like, I can't remember. I'm trying to pull the exact line of dialogue because Daniel's kind of joking around a little bit. He's like, I'm here for confession. Do I have to say 100 Hail Marys? This is, I can't tell my family anything. This is like, between, keep it between you, me, and the Lord. All of this stuff. I think it is kind of leading into Catholicism route, only just because of the Hail Marys and the, just getting that vibe a little bit. But
yeah,
even so, he says that he's attracted to men, and then, well, what is your sin? God made you perfect the way that you are. And that's how, like, they close out the first scene between the two of them. And it's just like, whoa, like, yeah, just like a
that,
very powerful, very, just the way
that's
that they handle that scene is just
to see you
gorgeous.
hear from a priest,
Hmm.
you know. And I like I said, I really appreciate the way that they handled that
Yes.
because they could have, I mean, they could have pissed off numerous viewers, but it would have kept it true to the religion. So the way that, um, the way that they had the priest say, what sin have you done?
Hmm.
Created in God's image and you're perfect the way you are, is almost like saying, okay, well, you're gay, you're attracted to men. Big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just, but having that and then, kind of jumping into, the scene when, because even if you have Avery and Damien just kind of like, kind of process, and Avery just trying to, like, wrestle with what she's going to say to him, and Damien saying, like, well, I tried to help, but, like, he needs someone there who's going to accept him and not judge. And it kind of folds into even his conversation earlier with Avery when he, says that he's been with men, and Avery's a little bit, kind of taken aback by that. But it all twines together so beautifully in that scene when they're on the pier
Yeah.
and she goes up to him, and it was just so gorgeously shot, and he's just in tears, and he says, you were right, I am, finally comes out to her, and then they just have that hug, and it's just such like a gorgeous, poignant way to just kind of close out that chapter for Daniel, because we've seen that evolution from the beginning of season 3 with him.
Exactly.
So,
I was gonna say we saw the maturity in Daniel because
mhm.
up until for the past 2 seasons he was basically comic relief in the
Yep.
last. We talked about that, but
Hmm.
now this season it's like it really matured and evolved the character to be
Absolutely.
you know from Burn's storyline.
Hmm.
We and it wasn't the main story of the season, but it's one of those stories that's weaved in that we see the progression from episode 1 to now the end of the season.
Yes, we just see that arc for him, and it's just so, and this just puts such a good cap on it, and it just kind of shows, okay, now it's like he's kind of, figured out to his best of his ability, where he's at and what he wants, and it's just like now we can explore the character further and move forward. But it all just, the way that that stretched out and the way that they played that arc over the course of the entire season, I just thought is really masterful and really, really well done.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um,
And
all
one of like you said though, that's not even like, I mean, obviously it's an important storyline and important through line, but like there's so many other plot points that also just kind of follow in that same sort of track where it's just like, you know, they're winding down or picking up in all these crazy ways. And there's so many other plots that were taking place, but like, oh, so much
yeah.
going on.
Um, and then we kind of the other minimal storyline that we kind of saw this over these past 2 episodes. So we're seeing the explosion of Colton.
Yes. Oh,
Um,
yes.
Tamara's doing her, photo shoot, and he comes to bring flowers, and like
Yeah.
I guess I kind of that scene had a lot in there because Janice comes in after her, finding out about the story that was leaked,
Hmm.
and she's clearly upset and intoxicated because of the
Yep.
pill.
Yep.
And she comes in and she's kind of pissed off because of her interaction with Liana, and which we'll get to later. But I don't know, it's almost like she's making the decisions that aren't really best for what's supposed to be there. Like she's
Right.
got to be sexier, it's got to be.
Yeah, no, like the photo shoot looks like everything is kind of going smoothly, but you see her just saying it's too clean. You got to sex it up, loosen his hair, make it sexier. And, it's almost like she's giving like the wrong direction, but she's also just, clearly inebriated in the moment and just not, but you have like the whole, and, so they do it. They follow her instructions because,
Yeah,
she's the boss. And then enter Colton, who sees, them in kind of a, sort of, risque
right.
sort of positioning, her, this model who he recognizes from the club from before, and he just lunges at him, and just completely disrupts the entire shoot and just, screws everything up. And it's just, you see that level of intensity from him, and it's just like they've found a way to escalate that character in every episode so far, and this is like, kind of peak of his, just like, you can see here clearly control freak, but also has a temper, but
Yeah.
also has like an aggressive tendency, and it's just like it's just becoming more and more nerving each time they show him, and this is like, the peak of that.
And on the flip side, we see Tamara, who just got out of a toxic relationship because Chase
Right.
arrested, who and again, they never actually showed it, but they alluded to it that he was abusing her.
Yes.
Especially was it Marley's funeral that she comes in with the sunglasses because we
Right.
the black
Yes.
eye or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, but she gets out of that relationship because he goes to prison for the rest of his life or whatever.
Yes.
Um, and now she's with a cop who, in all reality, should be a better person. But
When we, and he kind of gives that impression, because even early on, like early stage Colton, you have this guy who was former prison guard, goes in, and it's like, just seems like the good guy cop who's got the kid brother who's like gets into trouble once in a while, and he's very flattering and very charming and very just, oh, you're my girl. And even some of his lines when Colton comes to her apartment and is trying to, like, tail between his legs, all apologetic, trying to make it seem like trying to smooth things things over. I mean, at one point, doesn't he call her like his girl or something
Yeah.
like that? And you just see like Tamara's face, like you see the look in her eye, and she just kind of gets this like, oh, that's so sweet. And then you're just like, no,
Well,
no, don't.
but also the body language from Colton, where he's almost, if his hand was any closer to her throat, he'd be choking her.
Oh yeah. No, because like it's not long. Like you have that moment. You have her being like, standoffish and like just like, this is all screwed up. Like she's saying out loud how screwed up the situation was and what he did and how this is just a job. And, but when she lets him into the apartment, you're just like, oh, don't do it, don't do it. But then she lets him in and then it just kind of escalates, he starts like laying on, the charm and all of this stuff. Like, I don't want to ruin this. I just lost it. I saw you with that guy. I don't want anyone else touching you, and she even like says like, oh, it's just a job. It means nothing to me.
Yeah.
But it's just like, no, but like you're good at this job and you were looking at your photos and you were so happy about like how it's such a intense,
Photos.
frustrating scene to play out, and
Yeah.
then for him to just, she says it's like a stupid shoot that pays my bills, all of this stuff. But then he accuses her of whoring herself out. And like he just switches on a dime to using like this very, like this language that's just so intense with her. And just at that point, she's like, I don't even know what to say to you, all of this. And, like she is starting to kind of see the light a little bit when he says that, but then he retaliates. And again, he escalates because we haven't seen him actually physically. I mean, we didn't even see the other guy actually
Yeah.
physically hit her, but we do see her get struck by Colton.
Yeah.
And, he immediately apologizes and is all, oh, I'm so sorry. But it's just like the writing's on the wall. And we
Oh,
know
yeah.
that like she's just, she's right back in a toxic, abusive situation, only with the guy that's supposed to be the good guy.
Right. And it kind of goes to show her character trait of, just a low self-esteem
Yeah.
and,
Yep.
turned on by charm. Because
Yeah.
when she's going through like her pictures of that day's shoot, her face in those pictures she's miserable. Like,
Yep.
and I know models are not supposed to smile, say cheese, and all that kind of stuff.
Excuse me.
They're supposed to have more of a serious look on them, but you can tell by her eyes where she's just.
Yeah. No, it's just she's in such like a lost place,
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's like, but you kind of think that like she's gonna like latch onto something with this job, but then like she just kind of also realizes like, well, now that could totally just get thrown by the wayside because of what happened. And then, Colton comes in to pick up the pieces and winds up breaking her more. And it's just such a you just see her on this just trajectory and it just makes you sad. You
Does.
know, it's like reverse of what we saw with Daniel almost, where it's just kind of like you think that like she's finally starting to like find her footing and find where she's supposed to be and what she wants, and then we just slowly see her starting into that spiral again. And speaking of spirals, I mean, we also have we have Janice, who we talked about earlier too, and that whole which just
Which
that's on another level as well.
yeah, we can move into right now, and the fact that obviously we saw that Nathan published the article naming the victims of Chase Walker
Yeah.
and who got raped, and
Mhm.
it's the guy's a weasel.
Yes.
That's
Yeah. No, anything for clicks, anything for attention, even though it's going to, just completely like, pour gas on a situation that was already on fire and just make everything absolutely worse for these women that have suffered. But, not occurring to him in that moment. And, just we see Janice looking absolutely just gut punch devastated, but taking pills and drinking vodka. Like she has like the vodka in like a little like locked drawer in her desk and all of this. And the scenes between her and Liana as well. Because, Liana's coming from a place of like she's been there and she's trying her best to sympathize, but also just be like, I know what it was like for me and I know what it took to like pull me out of it. And she's not accepting that help and she's not going to pull herself out of it. And it
almost like
just,
it's a reverse, like the dynamic between Liana and Janice, and we've said it before, but it's almost like a reverse dynamic because
mm-hmm.
normally it's the mother telling the daughter, hey, I've tried this, I've been there, I want to help you. And
Right.
the daughter going to the mother now, and we've seen it the entire time between these two, even from when Liana witnessed Lee getting it blown up. you know
Yes.
Janice is home drunk laying on the couch, and
Mm-hmm.
like, you're supposed to be my mother. You're supposed to be here to support me.
Right. And then like, I just, it's always just kind of been, I mean, because they're, they have like the closeness kind of in age, but they also just have this like very twisted kind of, mother-daughter dynamic where it's like, parenting the child, child parenting the parent. It's just like it just becomes very, and you just see like all shades of that in this episode and their scenes together.
And they both
Like,
sober at the same time. It's
yeah,
like one of them's got issues. If one
right.
doesn't have an addiction problem, the other one does.
Yeah. And like Janice had this one line, like when Liana confronts her about the pills, like, you're taking pain pills, and then like she just screams into Liana's face, I'm in pain. And it's like, it was just such like a devastating, moment. But Liana's just like trying at that moment, just, where did you get them? I can help you. I know what it's like. And then Janice is just all pot meat kettle,
Yeah.
like, what are you trying to do? And, I'm the mom, you're the child. Like she even says that to her. You can't come here to scold me. But, and she just winds up kicking her out like an angry teenager, just being like, get out of my, I can't even be around you. Leave me alone, all of this. And what was Liana's like parting line to her? Like, go ahead and kill yourself. There's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
Something like that, which it just adds on just another layer of devastation, because why not?
And Liana herself is kind of in this weird position because she's on one hand, she's feeling happy because she's finally got a stable relationship with Will.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
she's
Will.
other. And I like how Will and Liana at the first scene with them at the diner where
Oh, yeah.
you know, Liana's venting about the problems with Janice, and was like, I did have to pull her over the other day, and
Hmm. Hmm.
I just took her home because she was clearly out of sorts.
Hmm.
And Liana brings that up to her and said, "Will, we even pulled you over and took you home because you're screwed up." You-
Yep. Yep. But she even like says to Will in that moment, like, he's saying like, well, she needs help. She was messed up. And Leon's just like, she's gonna have to go through it the same way that I did. And
Yeah,
it's like that's almost like such like a thing that you expect to hear a mother saying about her
yeah,
daughter, not necessarily the other way around, you
yep.
know? So it just adds to like that, like, just showing that level of their relationship. And we just see Janice, flashing back constantly, like, they keep on showing at her desk looking at the article, and then we just see, her flashing back to the actual, like, truck scene and everything, like, awful about it, and then just taking more pills.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's like you can see the writing on the wall right there for her, but it just, it's hammered home when they kind of cut ahead a little bit, and she still is like insisting like she wants to be alone. And what was her line, like, forgive me, God,
Yeah.
or something like that, which just, ugh,
And
like,
she takes pills, follows them with vodka, and lo and
yeah.
behold, and the one good thing that I really like about the Bay is they really tie characters into multiple stories. So
Hmm.
obviously Pete is the lead in the entire series, but
Yes.
at one point Pete and Vivian are kind of sitting on the couch. Pete's reading the article, and Vivian's like, "Go see her. She
Yeah.
clearly loves you. She cares about you. She's you can get through to her because she cares as much about her."
Yeah, you're the only one that can make her feel the way that you do about her.
Right.
You're the only one that can go to her and like, remind her that she's loved, and remind her that like, she's, just Vivian in that moment is just so, oh, she's just so insightful and so sweet, and just knows
So
that like,
self too, because she could easily have been catty and like,
yes.
well, my apologies for saying this, but a typical female response to another woman who's
Yeah. No, I mean, you wouldn't be so keen on sending your, husband to go and be, go console a woman who he was previously involved with,
right,
and said he was in love with. That
right.
would just be, go against a lot of instinct. But Viv, she knows that, like, this is, you know, and even, but I loved his acknowledgement that just, you know, his kind of discussing and putting a cap on to a degree his relationship with Janice.
Yeah.
when he's like talking with Vivian just very openly about it and says like, you know, what we had, like he says flat out, like my heart is not with Janice. My heart belongs, it's with you. Because now that he has what we have is special, but now that I had a chance to see it from the outside looking in, it was destructive. And, I wish things had never happened because a lot of people were hurt in the process, including us. Like he does kind of like put a, pin on everything that kind of went down between them and just kind of says like, he acknowledges the feelings were there and that there was love there and there was a connection, but he also acknowledges, yeah, it was kind of a twisted sort of entanglement.
And it's like not everybody can have see because in my household, my one of my exes is my best friend who actually served as my best woman at my wedding.
Oh.
And my wife calls her wife number two. So not every wife is like that, but just for
Right. But, in a typical, and also just typically for a soap, you wouldn't really see, like you'd expect to see a little bit more just like cattiness, a little bit more resentment, a little bit more drama, a little bit more just, well, I don't really want you going over. But it kind of, breaks that mold a little bit where you just have Vivian acknowledging the fact that, like, no, you were in a relationship with this woman. You're
yeah,
probably the only one that, like, she would trust around her right now,
yeah,
who she'd like let in and kind of discuss any of this with. Like, you need to be with her right now. And it just shows, like, she places a lot of love, a lot of trust, obviously, in Pete,
yeah,
but knows and is confident that he is with her and his heart is with her, and he says as much in that. And I really appreciate it, especially like kind of, you know it's like it's closing one chapter and opening up another,
right.
kind of with like, with that relationship sequence. And I thought those scenes were just really well done between them. And they were just cute, like, I'll be
Yeah,
here waiting,
yeah,
like, you have nothing to worry about. I'll be here waiting for you. You won't lose me, all of this. And it's a nice little, as opposed to the toxic relationship that, we just kind of, touched on with Tamara and Colton. It's nice to see just kind of a refreshing switch.
and then Pete does eventually get down to the office of the Romantica,
Hmm.
and Riley goes in to get Janice, and she finds Janice passed out on the floor.
Yep.
So he runs in, cradles her in his arms, and says, "Somebody get an ambulance."
Mhm.
Um,
Don't leave me. Don't leave me. And he's just holding her, sees that the vodka bottle is totally like drained on the floor. Just,
yep,
yeah. And that's the end of the episode. And that's where it, obviously, like, there were a few more beats prior to that just kind of set up the tone
right,
for that last 5 minutes, but that was the final beat. And it was just like, oh my God, okay, this is where we are.
yeah,
This is where we are with this character now. And, it just, yeah, no, it was just a very, in terms of, we have like that lovely kind of scene on the pier with all the light and everything, and then we just have this last scene that ends in just such a dark, sad, way. Just
exactly,
total
yeah,
contrast in the same episode.
and which is great. The use of lighting in those scenes are fantastic. Because,
Absolutely.
like you said, the one on the pier in the sunlight, it's all
Hmm.
warm and fuzzy. It gives you the warm and fuzzies.
Yep, it absolutely does. And then you see something like this, though. And heck, even like, you've got a lot that's just kind of with, a lot of stuff kind of happening in the shadows a little bit, especially in the last few minutes of the app when they just kind of start, having all these little kind of, oh my gosh, wait a minute, like moments. And then you're just like, well, wait, now we gotta wait until season 4 to see what's gonna go down. You left us on those fun little, like, cliffhangers all happening and, like, one after the other after the other.
Well, let's get to the other cliffhanger in that,
Mm,
Sarah's trial is going on.
yep.
Sarah is on the stand against everybody's, advice. And she even
Yes.
said that, when Tobin asked her, are you being forced to come up here and whatever? And she's like,
Yep.
no,
Quite
everybody,
the opposite. Yep. And she kind of gives the same spiel that she's given them, basically just saying how, like, people have ideas about me and what happened, but they weren't there. They don't know. I mean,
yeah,
she said all along, like, I'm the only one who can tell this story. I'm the only one who knows what happened. And we
yeah,
get treated to another kind of, flashback sort of sequence where we see it's not the reality that Tobin's presenting. It's not the reality that, Brandon Beamer
Evan.
Evan. I always forget his first name. I'm like young Blackwell, but that's not it. It's different than, the scene that he, laid out for us. We get to see actually, like tease at what actually did play out on that pier. And we get
Right.
to kind of, hear her story and also see it. And we have like the narration in the background of her just being like, the morning that he has to see me, he never smiled at me, but I remember my heart was racing because he was smiling at me. And he's kept me at arm's length, but I'd finally felt hopeful that I'd earned his approval. And she just, you can see how clearly she was just so desperate to like find that like sense of family and that sense of like belonging in that moment. It's just like,
Which is
oh
amazing to me because clearly she was the child that nobody ever knew existed, and now she's the
hmm
one that has the entire Garrett, for
yeah,
uh,
right.
because I mean, obviously her brother, half brother John Blackwell, is not part of the Garrett regime.
Right.
So it's just it's just a crazy. I think at one of these episodes we are going to do that Garrett family tree to try to figure.
Maybe we should like, draw that thing up and maybe make that, something, Patreon can see us like developing that family tree over the course of, like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, look at we've added this new branch.
yeah.
Check it out.
Just to kind of figure out where everybody does sit. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, Sara being the illegitimate, so to speak, child because it wasn't she was not wanted.
No,
You
no.
know?
And it's like, but you did have that one scene with and it's jumping a little bit, it's away from the courthouse, but it's with her and with Jack, where they're just kind of like, before they're waiting on the verdict to come
Yeah,
in, and he just kind of, you know, he says, just acknowledges as much as how like, trying to pull up the exact dialogue for it because it was a lovely little scene between the two of them. She's worried about the verdict coming back guilty, and like 30 years later they still think that Red is this like big hero, but and I'll never live up to who they think that he was, even though this man was just like this corrupt, awful individual. Everyone just thinks because he was just this big powerful politician that everyone, oh, he was a great stand-up senator, great guy, all of this. And
how
she's
many
just trying to live up to that rep that he's created, and but Jack just even tells her, you just be yourself. I
yeah,
wish there was a way to make them believe that there was a demon that lived, behind the walls all those years.
how many times in the real world do we find that out? Someone who's
Right.
idolized, who's loved, and then you find
Yeah, just they have this sterling reputation that you think they can't be touched, and they're just like, they're powerful and they're just respected and all of this. And just I'll never live up to who they think he was. And that's just such like that was like a gut punch of a line from her, Because in the end, I mean, she does, Nathan would always refer to her as like, queen of the city and all of this stuff. But it's like she had to claw her way there, clearly, and it's just kind of nice seeing like that kind of piece of things, because she didn't come into this, just like, I mean, she had to kind of fight and claw and scratch in order to get into her place within that family. And clearly she has, but now they're trying to like take that away from her. And she's just like, nope, this is my story. And I had to earn it to get here.
one thing I'm trying to figure out is Adam's motives.
Mm,
Because you see that he's talking, after after she gets off the stand and they're kind of conferring in the hallway, you
hmm
know, and
He's just doing that lurking thing. He's picked that up from Steve. He's good at that.
yeah, and Jack and Pete are kind of congratulating her, saying you did good. He sneaks away and slinks off into the courtroom and talks to Tobin, who is his
Yep.
dad, and
Yep.
said, "Well, I think we got to, tell her the truth now and whatever." Like he's losing it. Like I don't understand. Are his motives there so he sees her go to prison? I mean,
He's got such like, his character is still just kind of like a cipher. We still don't really know fully where his, we can tell obviously that he's resentful, that he's kind of like, Prince and the Pauper. He was the unlucky kid that didn't get like all the lucky breaks that he thinks that Pete has had all this time, even though Pete's had it rough too. It's not as if Pete had like, this sterling golden child existence. But Adam doesn't know any better, and he just like looks at them all, and he wants to just like get everything out in the open almost, but he's also just like being weird and cagey, and just he's such like an odd, He's just an
Yeah.
odd character, you know. It's hard to like pinpoint exactly but you do know that he wants to like just expose everything and get like, you know, because he keeps on telling you know, Tobin as much, just keeps on saying like, you know, I'm gonna, you know, talk if you don't. I'm gonna, you know, spill the, you know, just he's been saying that all along, and now we're just kind of waiting for him to do it. And
Major problem
then,
with that duel because his performance in the show is fantastic. I
oh, for sure.
bring it over to GH. But uh, no, I mean seriously, I'm enjoying the character, just the psychosis, the delusion, the psychosis. You know, he's
Hmm.
you
He
know
just plays it in such like a weird, unhinged sort of way, and he
even
can't exactly be sure of what he's going to do next. He's got this unpredictability about him, which is really refreshing and kind of cool. But it's
yeah,
also just like, okay, what's your game, bud? What's
right
going on? You
because
know?
even when he's in the house with Vivian, you know, he
Mm-hmm.
comes in the back door because she comes in from having groceries, calls the dog, and
Yeah.
takes the dog open the door by himself. Uh,
Yeah,
you
just
know,
making himself right, you know, in that environment. And I love how Viv just immediately like pulls a knife on him. She's just like, what the hell are you do? Like, get out of my house. What are
yeah,
you doing? You know, she is not no damsel in distress moment there. She is just straight up just like, you know, get out of, and I'm just like, you go, girl.
yeah.
Take
Uh,
care of that creep.
but then at the end, towards the end of the two shows, he does the same thing to Sarah. You
Yep.
know, like,
Yep.
hi,
Just
mom, or
I mean, the God, what was the exact line? Just
right,
like,
right,
you know,
right,
shows up when she goes in the back to like get her jacket or something like that, you know, like, oh, yeah, just, yeah, you all, you know, she's like, you all right? And I think she was thinking someone else was walking up behind her, and he's like, no, mother, I'm not.
yeah,
And you're just like, oh, crap.
yeah.
Okay.
Another major bombshell to bring us into.
Yeah, it's like, and just even the look on her face when she's like, it's like, oh, okay. Now, you
Yeah,
know, it's just so much, you know, in that moment, just quick little line, but that's all it took. And then like her reaction to it, just, oof.
I love the line that Tobin uses because Tobin first goes to the house to see Sarah. Lex won't let him in to see her.
Yep.
He calls
Lex is watchdog, permanent watchdog when it comes to Sara.
and and then Tobin calls and Lex answers and he's like, "Boy, you've really taken over the house, haven't you?"
I just love how like, you know, it's just like the little deadpan lines that Lex will just kind of get in, you know, and just and then same like they're back and forth, him and Tobin is just
Yeah,
it's because they're both just kind of like deadpan, just don't really like each other and you can tell, but they're just kind of casual. It's just I don't know. I like their dynamic. It's funny.
yeah,
But yeah, no, I mean even, you know, because he's just yeah, so much going on there.
yeah.
Just in terms of just interactions and like, you know, revelations and things like that happening. And, you know, even Nathan when he kind of shows up, you know, there's all the reporters outside of the door and things like that, and everyone's just like, you know, just he calls Nathan an animal. And, you know, it's like we already know that, like, you know, and that's just leading into what we see play out with Janice. And you're just like, just drives that point home. And you got to wonder if, like, at that point, Nathan is feeling any sense of like remorse or anything like that going on. He kind of walks away with this look about him, maybe, but it's hard to tell. It's just so many like little beats in that. And heck, we even have the beat that we didn't even really touch on with you know, we have the revelation of Steve
Yeah, I was.
kind of yeah,
I
his
like.
involvement because we
I
have
like
to circle back to him being a creep too. We can't just have Adam being, you know, we got to have
exactly
Steve
that.
get back in the mix now.
I like how John kind of just walks into the judge's chambers. They're obviously old friends. They know each other.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like,
Yep, they've got a past, and you know her being all like, you know, it's my anniversary, so I want to get out of here, and you know if these pictures and all this stuff just happen to kind of be in the same, you know, it's just like coded messaging,
yeah,
basically just being like, do your thing, but don't let it conflict with my evening.
more along the lines of, I hope those pictures are back where they are in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Just like, you know, I'm gonna kind of just look the other way for this because you know we know each other. Yeah, but you know, his just going to, you know, pulling up his like resources, that guy at the hospital, just trying to like, you know, get like, you know, being all, you know, Mr. private eye, Mr. Detective, Mr. Former DA, Mr. I'm gonna pull some strings and figure all this out. And
Like,
lo and behold,
I
we
just like the 180 that we see with John's character because
mm-hmm.
he's the only reason why she's in this predicament because she
Yep.
turned over the information to the cops.
Yeah. But it's like you can even kind of, pinpoint when though, like that 180 took place. It wasn't as if they just decided to make him just like, oh yeah, I want to be a hero now.
Yeah,
It's like
it's
does
when
he, it's because of Marley and it's because, of Damien and it's because, he feels that. I mean, that's kind of like a bit of a turning point, at least when he starts waking up to the fact that like
I think it's
my
more
son is still alive because of her daughter.
well, yeah, but I think it's more along the lines of after he shot Jack and they show the scene where Jack's in the hospital
Oh
bed.
yeah, no, that's definitely more of like the emotion, but even his attitude towards Sarah a
Oh
little
yeah,
bit more, when it comes to, and because even after it kind of takes like that event taking place for him to even go to the, like, try and apologize to her at the police station when she's still like in custody and, trying to still, but yeah, definitely the moment with Jack is when he really just kind of turns over a new leaf and just kind of starts, going back into that, and he also probably sees the fact that his son is like a freaking, bulldog when it comes to, pursuing this case, even, and going after this. And he feels like he maybe has to,
and I think he kind of sees a lot of himself in his son. I mean, granted, they never had a good relationship because of what Evan saw when he was younger.
right,
You know,
right.
it's like
Yeah.
they never had a good relationship because for all intents and purposes, Jack just or John just let things play out the way they were
Hmm.
instead of fighting for his wife or his, and not seeing the writing on the wall that his father was flirting with his wife or whatever the case
Yeah. Yeah.
was. So with Evan, it's like I think John sees a lot of himself in Evan because John was the previous DA,
Yes.
so and he has that intense, you know,
Yeah. But even he knows that, like, his son's barking up the wrong tree and that, someone else was involved in this. And he's trying to tell him that. But, Evan is stubborn and Evan is resistant and Evan is clearly, invested in making Sara pay for this crime, no matter what. And, it's just funny. He kind of even backs, he's just like, you're gonna have to learn, make your own mistake, I guess. You're gonna have to, but he, still not even letting that totally be the case by going and getting the photo situated and realizing that the actual culprit in the photo was actually, our good friend Steve.
that's obviously a big revelation that we find out as the audience, but the court still doesn't know. So
Hmm.
that's another story that we're going to find out going in
Yep.
for.
Yep.
Oh
But
my God.
just having that, even like just that little hint just kind of dropped right towards the end. It's just like, and then we got Steve fleeing to the airport, just like right afterwards. We just kind of see him like, trying to, arrange his
And
transport. It's like he
Joe walks,
knows.
yeah,
And
Joe walks in and says, "Hey, where are you going?"
yep. Yep. Joe's back in the mix now and she's, trying to get away from the whole perjuring herself for him thing and whatnot. And yep, just a fun little twist to drop right before everything, everything else.
Yeah. But
They just
holy
give us
cow, those
another thread.
episodes were amazing. Um, as is everything with the Bay,
Yep.
gotta say it that way. And thank you guys, for watching. That you are watching, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, get notified because there's a lot more content coming out going into the future. And just remember, this is the final live episode, at least for now, the final
Yeah.
live episode of Dockside at the Bay. Going forward, it will be pre-recorded, released on Patreon every Tuesday, and YouTube, and the podcast will be every Wednesday. So go sign up for our Patreon, patreon.com/suds and squared circle. That'll probably change in the near future. But just going forward, everything except for Suds News that you see Monday nights live, everything will be released to Patreon a day before it's released to YouTube and podcasts.
Hmm.
Um, Go ahead and, like I said, like, subscribe, get notified for our channel. And then if you're listening on the podcast feed on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you find, give us a 5-star review, just to help the algorithm. Remember, Take Me Down to Studio City and Angela Answers Fan Mail. They both have their own RSS feeds, so their own podcast feeds themselves. Go subscribe to those. If you have Apple, an iPhone or iPad, or then subscribe for Apple Podcasts. There is a Suds and Squirt Circle Media channel. Everything is all right there. You can follow the channel and everything that's involved, whether it's Suds News, Dockside, Studio Take Me Down to Studio City, um, Angela Answers Fan Mail, and also going forward, Sports Entertainment Center. Everything will be there, and anything else we start will be added to that channel. So follow the channel on Apple Podcasts, Suds and Squirt Circle Media. Um, Tim, any final thoughts on season 3 as we wrap
I
this?
think there was only one detail we forgot about, and it's ironic because, I just did the whole wedding thing, but we did have Will propose to Liana in a cute little way, which was very sweet. I mean, I don't know, the look on Liana's face was a little just, well, don't really know how this is going to go.
Yeah,
But his gesture, him showing all dressed up in his dapper little suit with the violinist and everything like that, I was like, oh, Will.
yeah,
So yeah, there was just one note that I think we forgot to touch on. But
he did.
yeah, just nothing really to add aside from the fact that these were just two dynamic, really powerful episodes, and it'll be fun to dive into season 4 and just kind of, even just getting to tackle one per. I feel like it'll be fun just to kind of, because there is so much to explore even in the just 20 minutes that each of these tend to consist of, 20, 25 minutes. So
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Um, yeah, it was right after Liana had the argument with Janice, and
hmm
so she starts by saying, "I'm sorry, I just got into a big argument," and Will's like, "No, we're not doing this tonight. We're only going with positive."
yeah, it was so. And now I just feel like he's going to get his heart stomped on. But hey, I'm just speculating because honestly, you haven't seen season 4. I've kind of forgotten some of the stuff of season 4. So it'll be fun to go back in and revisit for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that season 4 starts next week on the first pre-recorded episode of Dockside the Bay, which will be released to Patreon next Tuesday. But anyways, just amazing. The Bay is a fantastic show. It is available on Tubi TV, uh Peacock. Both of those are limited. Peacock has like I said, Peacock has seasons 1 through 6. Tubi has 1 through 7. And but if you really want the most up to date, go to Amazon. Amazon also has the Bay at the beginning as well. So
Yes.
Amazon has the absolute full series so far. Uh,
hmm
and then season 8 just dropped there and then Popstar has seasons 1 through 8. So
Yep.
uh, you could definitely catch up and watch all of the stuff um, that's out there for the Bay on the multiple streamers that are out there.
And you definitely should. And just a shout out to, we were just talking about how wonderful the show is. Shout out to the wonderful cast who I had a chance to chat with and get to speak with at this event. A couple weekends back. It was absolutely lovely, and it was really really cool here. Just getting to chat up the podcast with you guys and just being able to chat about this really really awesome show with some of the really awesome actors and the creative talent behind it. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. But we do have a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline going forward. Um,
yep,
not
definitely a lot going on.
channel, but also on the network as well.
hmm
But also for this show as well. Also, Kim and I are both involved in projects with JLJ Media. Um, so keep an eye out. We're part of, like I said, we're part of the soap opera podcast family.
We
Uh,
are. We
you
are.
know,
And it's a cool family to be a part of for sure. So,
um, JLJ Media is doing well, Matt and Kat from the 10th floor on their YouTube page are doing a Monsters rewatch. The new season that came out with Nicholas Alexander Chavez about the Menendez brothers on Netflix. Their episodes 1 through 9, their entire stuff is on their YouTube page, but the podcast is through JLJ Media. So it's kind of a collaboration there. Like I said, this week, Mr. McMahon documentary on Netflix drops as well. And Jonathan from Chair Shot Sports, Matt from 10th Floor Podcast, myself, and multiple others are going to be doing a roundtable style reaction after show to that, and that's starting this week as well. Thursday night on Patreon, Friday on the podcast feed, and wherever else it's released because it'll be probably released multiple places. Sports Entertainment Center starts this week as well. Thursday on Patreon, Friday on podcast and YouTube. So a lot of stuff coming down the pike.
For sure. For
There's just
sure.
not enough hours in the day. Awesome. But anyway, so we're out of time. We've been here, been at it for an hour tonight. So
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed the show. Like I said, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, get notified, can leave us a 5-star review, and we'll be seeing you more going forward. We'll see you next week, Dockside at the